Hi, I'm Elliot. My sister shoved me out of my wheelchair in front of our classmates, then told everyone I fell because I was too weak. The teachers believed her. My own mother told me to stop making trouble. She even whispered once that I was a burden who'd never match Lila's shine. And for a while, I did. But that was the last time I stayed silent because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, is that I kept everything. The napkin, the audio, the names. And 30 minutes ago they heard the truth play aloud in a room that finally couldn't look away. So tell me, have you ever been pushed so hard you stopped apologizing for standing back up? Before we dive in, let us know, what time are you listening to this, and where are you tuning in from? I read every comment. The first bell hadn't even rung when the hallways were already buzzing. It was one of those overcast mornings in Asheville where the clouds felt heavy but hadn't broken yet. The gym was decorated with streamers for festival week, and everyone was too excited or too self-involved to notice me rolling through. That's usually how it went. I didn't move with the crowd. I moved through it like a shadow no one saw coming. Kids zipped past me carrying props for the assembly. One teacher nodded at me without really making eye contact. I kept my hands on the push rims, steering around a carelessly placed backpack and barely avoiding a lunchbox someone had dropped. My hands were already sore, but I didn't say a word. They'd asked me to help fold napkins. Not speak, not present, just fold. I'd spent all night at the dining table smoothing creases into deep blue fabric, lining them up like they were worth something. Each fold felt like swallowing another silent scream, knowing my effort would be invisible next to Lila's spotlight. They'd called it helping backstage. I called it being sidelined with a smile. I didn't argue. I just folded them tighter. At home that morning, Mom had fussed over Lila's hair, brushing it out like she was 6 years old again, cooing about how beautiful she looked on stage. Leela soaked it up. Of course, that's what she did. She was the rising star, the student council vice president, the older sister who's going places. What they didn't say, but I felt, was that I was just there, a supporting character in her flawless coming-of-age movie. I had been assigned a short closing line for the assembly, just 3 sentences thanking the volunteers. I had practiced it more than I should have, rewritten it until it felt like something I'd say, not something a teacher handed me. But that morning, when I checked the script pinned backstage, my part was gone. Gone! Erased like I'd never been in it. Lila was standing nearby talking to Miss Harper about lighting cues. She didn't look at me, but I saw the edge of a smirk before she turned away. That smirk burned into me, a silent taunt that she'd won again, just like always. I held the printout a second longer, then folded it and placed it back exactly where I found it. Peacekeeping, that's what I told myself. It wasn't worth the scene, but something in my chest didn't settle. Later, as the students gathered by the theater entrance, the noise around me faded into a low hum. I was waiting for my cue to wheel over near the faculty row when I felt a shift, something subtle but sharp. "Try not to mess things up this time," Lila murmured as she passed me, her lips barely moving. She bent down like she was adjusting my footrest, but her hand slid low to the frame behind my wheel, and then, with a quick jerk, she pushed. My chair pitched sideways. There was no time to brace. My body tilted hard to the right, and I hit the concrete on my shoulder and hip. Pain flared. So did shame. For a heartbeat, no one said anything. Then came a gasp, then shuffling feet, but no one rushed to help. No one shouted. No one stepped forward. "He fell," Lila said loudly, backing away with mock concern. "He does that sometimes. His arms just give out." That hit harder than the concrete. The lie, clean and confident, landed like a slap. A few students nodded. A few looked at their phones. No one looked at me. Her words echoed in my head, each one a dagger twisting deeper, as if my existence was a flaw she could rewrite. Lying there, cheek pressed against the cold cement, I felt something strange. Not just pain, but recognition. Like I'd been here before, and I had. I remembered being 12. We were at the park and there was this grassy hill behind the playground. Lila had been in charge of pushing me that day, and I remember how she laughed as she let go. Just for a second, she said, to see what would happen. I'd rolled halfway down that hill, panicked and helpless, and she caught up after, said sorry with her big fake eyes. I never told Mom. I didn't want to start drama. Now here I was. Different day, different excuse, but the same story. The crowd around me shifted again. A teacher jogged over, Mrs. Langston, out of breath and clearly unsure of what she'd missed. Lila was already crouched beside me, helping lift me as if she hadn't been the one to send me down. "You okay?" she asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Her voice dripped with false sweetness, a performance so polished it made my stomach churn. I nodded once. I didn't trust my voice. She brushed imaginary dirt off my sleeves and smiled like a good big sister should. Her performance was seamless, an Emmy-worthy display of concern. I was escorted inside. Someone pushed me this time. No one asked what really happened. No one questioned Lila. Later that day, while I sat alone in the resource room pretending to work on a class slideshow, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Hope you're okay. Please don't embarrass your sister today. It's a big day for her." The words stung like a betrayal, as if my pain was an inconvenience to her perfect daughter's moment. I didn't reply. I couldn't decide which part hurt more, the lie, the fall, or the idea that my job was to stay silent for someone else's comfort. That night, I sat on my bed, my wheels locked, the house finally quiet. I opened my hand, and there it was, the navy napkin I had folded the night before, crumpled, pressed into my palm from the fall. I smoothed it once, then tossed it in the trash before anyone saw. The napkin disappeared beneath the wrappers and receipts, but the weight of it didn't leave my hand. I wheeled myself to the nurse's office without asking permission. No one stopped me. That's the thing about being invisible. They only see you when they need something. And right then, nobody needed me. The nurse aide didn't ask many questions. She looked at the scrapes on my elbow and quietly began cleaning them. I stared at the ceiling tiles, off-white squares dotted with brown watermarks like old wounds. Outside the small window, I could see a few students hanging ribbons on the school fence, laughing, clapping each other's shoulders like nothing had happened 30 minutes ago. "I'm going to bandage this up, might bruise later, so ice it when you get home, all right?" she said, taping the gauze down gently. I nodded. My voice hadn't found its way back yet. From the hallway came the crackle of the intercom. "Attention students and faculty, please excuse the interruption. We'd like to congratulate Lila Bennett for being selected as a recipient of this year's Compassion and Leadership Award. She's being called to the main office now for her photo." The announcement echoed through the corridor like a joke someone forgot to laugh at. The hallway outside erupted in cheers. I heard someone shout, "That girl deserves it." Another added, "She's the best." My fingers curled into the armrests. Compassion and leadership. My sister shoved me onto the ground and got handed a plaque for it. Twist the knife, smile while you're doing it. The irony burned, knowing her award was built on lies I'd been forced to swallow. That's always been her style. The aide gave me a soft pat on the shoulder, probably thinking I was upset about the fall. "You'll be okay, sweetheart. These things happen." But this didn't just happen. It was planned, performed. I didn't respond. Later, after lunch, I rolled into homeroom. Miss Carter stood near her desk, sorting papers. She always wore pencil skirts and red lipstick like a character from an old courtroom drama. I waited until the last student left, then approached her quietly. "Miss Carter." My voice cracked. "I need to tell you something." She looked up, a bit startled. "Sure, Elliot, what's going on?" I hesitated. My mouth was dry and the words felt heavier than they should. "I didn't fall this morning. Lila pushed me. She pretended to fix my chair, but she made it tip." Her eyes flickered. Not shocked, more calculating. "Oh, well." She looked down, then back up with a tight smile. "I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it. Lila would never hurt you." "But she did." Miss Carter's voice dropped to a hush. Maybe you just lost balance. These things can feel blurry. It's a big week for the school, and tensions are high. Let's not blow something out of proportion, all right?" Her dismissal cut deeper than the fall. Another adult choosing Lila's charm over my truth. There it was. A polite way of saying, "Sit back down. Don't make trouble." She turned back to her paperwork. I just sat there, staring at her back. Later, I opened my school-issued laptop in the library, drafted an email to the counselor, typed out everything, what Lila had done before, even the deleted line from the ceremony script. I had it all down, every detail, but my thumb hovered over the send button for too long. What if they didn't believe me either? I hit delete. The screen went blank. The silence wasn't just outside me anymore, it was sinking into my bones. Each deleted word felt like surrendering a piece of my voice. But I wasn't ready to give up entirely. Down the hall, music echoed from the gym. It was rehearsal time for the award ceremony. I wasn't scheduled to attend, but I went anyway. Slipped in through the side ramp and parked in the shadows near the bleachers. On stage, Lila walked confidently across the platform, practicing her smile for the camera. A teacher whispered near the sound booth, "She's such a role model for the younger girls." I wanted to laugh, but it caught somewhere in my throat. She turned, saw me in the corner, and held my gaze for just a second. Then she smiled. A smile that said, "You know what I did, but you won't say a word." Not one hair out of place. Not one crack in her mask. They were applauding the version of her they wanted to see, the one who held doors, who led team meetings, who folded her hands perfectly during assemblies. Not the girl who knew exactly how hard to push before the world looked away. I rested my hand on the armrest of my chair and tightened my grip. Maybe no one else would remember what happened, but I would. And I started by remembering what she did the last time. It wasn't the fall itself that stuck in my memory. It was the way she smiled after. The same smile I saw again yesterday in that gym. Calm, untouchable. That wasn't new. I was 11 when it first happened. We were at a family resort near Lake Norman. My mom had booked the place because of some group discount she got through the church. Lila had begged to share the big room with a view of the lake. I got the cot near the window unit that hummed all night. The morning we visited the pool, I stayed on the side like always. I liked the sun, but not the noise. My legs ached that day, I remember that much. I was sipping a juice box, just watching, when Lila appeared behind me. "Come closer," she said. "You can dip your feet." I shook my head. "Oh, come on." "Don't be such a downer." The next thing I felt was the sudden jolt forward. My chair tipping over the edge, the cold slap of water, my hands flailing before someone finally pulled me out. "He's fine," Lila said, laughing like it was a joke gone too far. "He needed to cool off." Her laughter haunted me for weeks, a reminder that my fear was her amusement. No one asked me what happened. My mother fussed over my wet clothes and warned me not to get sick. My dad told Leela to be more careful, but that was it. That moment didn't just get buried, it got rewritten. Now, more than a decade later, I was back in the role I knew too well, the one who got pushed and then told to smile through it. At lunch, I looked for Emma. We always sat at the end table near the vending machine, the one where you had to slam the soda slot 3 times to get a Diet Dr. Pepper. But today, she wasn't there. She was sitting near the center with a group from drama club. I wheeled over quietly, slowly. "Emma?" She looked up, startled, then smiled, but it was off. I could read it instantly. It was the kind of smile you give when you don't want someone to sit next to you. She leaned closer, lowered her voice. "I just can't be in the middle of this. I'm sorry." I felt my chest thud, but my face didn't show it. "So this is too much now." "No, it's not that. It's just, people are saying you're making it a bigger deal than it is. And Lila, she's got that leadership thing going on right now. I just can't get caught up like I was a mess that someone else might step in. Her words felt like a blade, cutting me out of the one safe corner I thought I had. I nodded once, rolled back, and didn't say a word. That was twist S4. The whispers had started. You could feel it in the way people glanced and then looked away. I was no longer just the quiet boy in a chair. I was a subject of conversation, an inconvenience that made others uncomfortable. By fourth period, I passed the hallway bulletin board. The digital screen was running a slideshow titled Festival Week, a celebration of spirit and service. Photos from the last few days flipped one by one, decorating the courtyard, hanging lights, the group shot with volunteers. I'd been there. I had folded banners, labeled the boxes, even helped Coach Ellis sort cords. But there was the photo, and I wasn't in it. Cropped out neatly. I scanned the credits. Thanks to all our amazing helpers, Lila Bennett, Max, Tanya, Arlo. I asked Mr. Foster from the tech team, trying to keep my voice casual. Hey, do you know if the full group photo got uploaded? He didn't look up. Oh, maybe there was a glitch. These files can be weird. That's all. Yeah, probably just a tech issue, he muttered and walked away. Nothing was corrected. Twist S12 landed soft but deep. I rolled into the library and found my usual corner under the second-story window where the afternoon light filtered through the blinds in stripes. I pulled out my journal, the one with the leather strap and frayed edges, and I wrote. They erased my body. They erased my name, but they can't erase my memory. Each stroke of the pen felt like carving my truth into stone, a vow to never let them bury me again. I stared at those words for a long time. This wasn't about a fall. This was about the silence that followed, the comfort people chose over truth. The way they'd rather believe someone like Lila, poised, smiling, camera-ready, than confront the idea that someone like her could be cruel. It was about a system built on pretending things didn't happen. About what happens when the ones who are supposed to see choose not to. When I returned to my locker later, Lila was walking by with a pack of students trailing behind her. One of them laughed too loudly. Another clapped her shoulder. She looked like she belonged in a high school movie. Our eyes met. She didn't even flinch. That was her power. She didn't need to explain or deny. She just had to keep moving forward as if nothing had happened and let the world fill in the blanks for her. But I wasn't blank. You're not the only one who remembers things, I whispered under my breath. That night after dinner, I sat in my room with the lights low. My mom was downstairs watching a crime show, the kind where the detective always figures it out with 10 minutes left. I reached under my desk and pulled out a dusty box taped on the sides, corners soft from age. Inside were old notes, birthday cards with crossed-out names, crumpled drawings, a plastic hairpin I'd once worn to a school recital where Leela had accidentally tripped me backstage, things no one else thought mattered. But I had remembered them. It's time I remembered everything, I whispered, pulling the lid all the way off. But I wasn't the only one holding on to a memory that hurt. That night I stayed up well past midnight. The box of scraps and photos sat open beside me. I journaled without thinking, stream of consciousness writing, the kind I hadn't done in years. As the ink soaked the page, memory after memory unspooled. Not just Lila's acts, but the dismissals that came after. She didn't mean it, they'd say. Or worse, you're too sensitive. I wrote down every instance I could remember, time she pinched me under the table, then smiled sweetly at our grandmother. The day she told our Sunday school teacher I had cheated on a memory verse, even though I hadn't. She cried on cue. I was pulled out of class. These weren't childhood pranks, they were rehearsals. Each memory was a brick in the wall she'd built to keep me small. But I was ready to tear it down. The next morning I arrived at school early. It wasn't intentional. My mom had to leave for her nursing shift early, so I got dropped off just as the sky was still gray-mool. The hallways were quiet, cold. As I turned the corner past the east stairwell, I heard the scrape of metal against tile. Mr. Calvin Reed, the school custodian, was crouched down, adjusting a loose tile near the water fountain. He looked up when he saw me, nodded once. I gave a small smile, ready to roll past him like usual, when he spoke. "I saw what happened," he said. I paused. His voice was low, not uncertain, not questioning, just steady. "That day, near the theater doors, I was emptying trash by the side lot. I saw your sister touch the chair. Then I saw you fall." My hands stiffened on my wheels. "I tried to tell myself it wasn't what it looked like," he went on, "but it wasn't the push that convinced me. It was the way you got back in that chair. Like it wasn't the first time. Twist S5 didn't hit me like a blow. It settled into my spine." He stood up slowly, brushing his pants off. "No one's ever asked me what I saw. They never do." "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. He shrugged. "You looked like someone who finally needed to hear it." That stayed with me all day. After classes, I went home and tried to distract myself with reruns on TV, but they buzzed in the background like static. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old photos, family events, school projects, holidays where Lila was always front and center. If I was in the frame, I was usually to the side or blurry. A little after 8:00 p.m., my phone buzzed. Aunt Clara. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hey, honey," she said warmly. "Just checking in. Your mom mentioned you had a little tumble." I tried not to sigh. "Yeah, something like that." There was a pause. "She didn't do something again, did she?" I froze. "Wait, what?" Aunt Clara exhaled on the other end. "I probably shouldn't say anything, but when I visited y'all that summer before your 10th birthday, Lila told your parents I broke your mom's necklace. I didn't. I'd never touch her things, but your mom believed her. I got sent home early." Why would she do that? She always knew how to cry just right. Make people feel like they had to take her side. You know what I mean? Yes, God, yes. Twist S10 was like a hidden thread pulled loose. It unraveled more than just one memory. "Sweetheart," Clara added, her voice softer. "She's had this in her for a while. Don't let it twist you into knots." But it already had. After we hung up, I sat alone in the dim kitchen, the hum of the fridge the only sound. This wasn't about one fall. This wasn't even about Lila. This was about power and the way it cloaked itself in charm. About how people didn't want to confront uncomfortable truths if it meant disrupting the stories they liked better. I took out a legal pad from the drawer and started listing names. Daryl Green, publicly called out for cheating on a quiz, even though the teacher later found the grading error. Jasmine Cole, humiliated on stage when her mic was cut halfway through her solo. Rachel Kim, assigned to the alternate debate team despite winning more practice rounds than the lead speaker. Each one of them had been subtly erased, just like me. And each time, the room moved on. I wasn't just a victim. I was sitting inside a system that made room for this. At midnight, I opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then started typing. I created a folder and named it Things They Won't Talk About. Inside, I opened a fresh doc and titled it The Fall. I wrote every detail. No embellishments, just truth. The way her fingers touched the back of my chair. The faint sound of rubber tires scraping sidewalk. The gasp from the girl in the hoodie who turned away. I didn't send it, but I saved it. And I read it again. Once, twice. Then I highlighted one line and bolded it. Sometimes the quiet ones remember best. The words felt like a battle cry, a promise to myself that her lies would no longer define me. The school didn't know it yet, but I was done being quiet. As I rolled through the front hallway the next morning, the sunlight hit the trophy case just right, making it shimmer like something sacred. Leela's photo was in the center, a shot from last spring's honor roll banquet. She was smiling like she always smiled when a camera found her. Perfect teeth, head tilted, no hint of cruelty behind the gloss. Beneath the glass, someone had left a single yellow carnation. At first I thought it was meant for her, but the tag beneath read, "In memory of Mrs. Halverson, 1962 2022. It wasn't for Lila, but somehow the world still revolved around her image. Back home earlier that morning, I'd stood in the kitchen with my mom, the clink of her spoon stirring her coffee the only sound between us. I wanted to speak. I had rehearsed it in my head, how to bring it up without sounding accusatory. "Something happened with Lila," I finally said. She didn't even look up, just kept stirring, then set the spoon down with a tired clink. "Just let it go, honey. Don't make it harder for her." She said it like Lila was the one struggling. Her words were a quiet command to stay small, to let Lila's star keep burning at my expense. Twist S9 wasn't loud. It didn't come with screaming or slamming doors. It was the quiet certainty that even your mother would rather not see you. By the time I got to school, that ache had folded itself into something colder, something harder to shake. The day dragged. In English class, Emma's name was missing from the group project roster. I asked the teacher what happened. "Oh, she's been moved to Miss Barton's group," she said casually, flipping pages. "Apparently, she requested it." It shouldn't have hurt. But it did. At lunch, I sat alone again. The cafeteria felt louder than usual. Forks clanged, shoes squeaked, trays slammed. Across the room, Emma laughed at something another girl said. She looked over once, briefly, then dropped her gaze to her plate. A boy passed my table and muttered just loud enough for me to hear, "He always makes drama." Twist S13 didn't sting because it was cruel. It stung because it was easy. Easy for people to say. Easy for them to believe. I stayed in the lunchroom longer than I needed to. There was nowhere else I wanted to go. I picked at the edges of my sandwich, trying not to think. Just breathe. When I stood to take my tray, I noticed something tucked underneath it. A napkin folded once, then again into a shape I recognized. A 4-point pocket fold, the kind I'd made for Lila during the festival week setup. My heart stopped. I unfolded it slowly. "You were right. I saw it too. She shoved you." Twist S14 hit like a beam of sun through thick fog. Someone else had seen. Someone else had known. And they hadn't spoken. Not yet. But they were watching, remembering. I looked around the room. I didn't know who T was. It could have been any one of the quiet faces pretending not to glance my way, but I didn't feel entirely alone anymore. I placed the note carefully into my folder, things they won't talk about. It joined the letter I'd written, the photos I'd started collecting, the screenshots. I wasn't trying to build a case, not yet, but I was building something. For the first time in days, I felt a small smile pressed at the corners of my lips. It wasn't joy. It was recognition. "They're not all asleep," I whispered. "Not all of them." In the hallway after lunch, I passed the gym where Leela and her friends practiced a skit for the final day of festival week. They laughed loud, laughed like nothing had happened. She didn't glance my way this time. She didn't need to. I stopped in the middle of the hallway, rested one hand on the armrest of my chair, and whispered low, "They think I'm too weak. I think they forgot how steel is made." I wasn't planning to speak tomorrow, not with words. After the last bell rang, I wheeled past the custodian's cart and gave Mr. Reed a quick nod. He didn't say anything, just tapped the side of his cap. He knew I was staying behind. I told the staff I was helping decorate the gym for festival week. In truth, I had other plans. I moved slowly down the quiet hallway toward the auditorium, the wheels of my chair echoing off the locker-lined walls. There was still sunlight pouring in through the high windows, casting long shadows across the floors. The gym was bustling, but I turned the opposite direction toward the tech booth. Inside the control room above the theater stage, the old mic setup was still plugged in from rehearsal day. The red light on the interface blinked, waiting. I didn't have to guess if it had captured what I hoped it did. I found the recording log, scanned through the timestamps, and selected the file marked Prep Wednesday Drama Club. I hit play. At first it was just chatter, chairs scraping, laughter, voices calling lines. Then Lila. Her voice was unmistakable, smooth, airy, almost amused. It's not like anyone will believe him. He's too weak to fight back. I froze. That was it. Twist S6 was cold, sharp, and undeniable. There was no question of interpretation, no way to spin it, no edits, no tricks. It was her voice, her words. Her casual cruelty pierced through the static, a confession she never meant for me to hear. I downloaded the file, renamed it Evidence 1. Then I closed the laptop carefully. I stayed still for a long moment, staring at the stage below. My hands weren't trembling, not anymore. The roll, back to my locker was slower, but not because I was stalling. I wanted to breathe this part in, the moment before the mask slips. The hallway was nearly empty now, only a few scattered sounds of lockers slamming, feet shuffling. Then I saw her, Lila. She stood at my locker with her back turned, fumbling with the combination. She didn't expect me to catch her there. When she turned and saw me coming, she jumped slightly, then gave a tight smile. "Oh," she said, holding up my notebook like it was some kind of discovery. "I thought I left my pen in here, from last week." There were no pens in her hand, just the notebook where I kept sketches of napkin folds, annotations about festival week tasks, and a list of dates I'd started logging every time something like this had happened. Her eyes flickered with panic, betraying the lie she was trying to sell. Twist S15 wasn't loud either, but this time I didn't freeze. I held her gaze. She blinked first. "Thanks," I said evenly. "But I've already backed it all up." Her smile cracked just slightly. Then she set the notebook down and walked away, arms crossed like the hallway air had suddenly gone cold. I didn't call after her. Didn't need to. That evening at home, I laid everything out across my bed. Laptop open to the audio file, journal beside it, sketchbook, screenshots, a list of names. Mine wasn't the only one. A classmate mocked for her stutter. A boy excluded from a group project because he used a cane. A student who left mid-semester after weeks of isolation. We were different, but the pattern was the same. Lila didn't create the system, but she knew how to thrive inside it. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the email icon. I could send it to the principal. I could upload it, blow it wide open, but instead, I waited. Some part of me wanted them to look me in the eye first, to hear the truth while standing just feet away from the boy they tried to erase. There's a difference between knowing something and feeling it. Tomorrow, I wanted them to feel it. I printed out a still from the auditorium video. One frame. Lila turning back toward me while I lay on the floor, smirking, or maybe smiling. I didn't care anymore about the nuance. That image slid into the folder titled The Fall Files. The microphone had caught her voice, the photo had caught her face, and me? I'd caught the silence they all depended on, and I'd started breaking it. I looked up at the ceiling above my bed, then slowly closed the folder. Tomorrow wasn't a plan. It was a reckoning. I whispered to the quiet air of my room, as if it could carry my words into the morning. Tomorrow I won't say much, but I won't need to. The night had been long, but not restless. I didn't toss or turn. I simply lay still, like my whole body was holding its breath. They were about to hear what silence sounds like when it stops obeying. That line echoed through my thoughts as I rolled across the school's front entrance the next morning, the gymnasium looming ahead like a courtroom dressed in balloons and banners. Inside, rows of folding chairs had been set up in neat lines. Teachers huddled in corners, clipboarded and cautious. The stage was draped with gold and blue, school colors. A long banner read, "Monthly Assembly, Character, Courage, Community." Lila stood backstage, her hair curled to perfection, her blazer crisp, her expression soft and polished. She smiled faintly as the assistant principal clipped a microphone to her collar. It was the same smile she used when telling lies. But this time I saw the faintest tremor in her hands, a crack in her perfect facade. I stayed in the back corner of the gym, waiting. In my lap, my file folder rested flat, sealed shut, but heavy with truth. The wheels of my chair creaked against the gym floor as I rolled into position just out of the spotlight. Principal Dawson stepped up to the podium and cleared his throat. "Before we begin," he said, adjusting his tie, "one of our students has asked to say a few words. Please listen with the same respect you'd want given to you." Heads turned. I moved slowly forward. The air shifted. Whispers stalled. Someone near the back of the bleachers dropped their phone with a hollow clack. Twist S7 didn't scream. It whispered and waited. I positioned myself center stage in front of a room filled with faces that had once looked past me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I was told, I fell, I began, because I'm weak. The silence swallowed the space whole. But I didn't fall. I was pushed. Somewhere to my left, I heard a chair squeak. Someone inhaled audibly. And I have proof. But more than that, I have memory, I have strength, and I know how easy it is to be erased, especially when you don't fit what people want to see. Lila's eyes locked onto mine. Her mouth didn't move, but her body did, shoulders stiffening, fingers twitching at her sides. Her face paled, as if she knew the mask she'd worn for years was about to shatter. I reached into the side pouch of my chair and pulled out a small speaker. I pressed play, a soft click, then Lila's voice, clear, cutting, undeniable. "It's not like anyone will believe him. He's too weak to fight back." Twist S8 hit like cold water across warm skin. Gasps rippled across the bleachers like wind through dry leaves. One of the teachers near the back looked up from her clipboard, frozen. A girl sitting in the second row reached for her friend's hand and whispered, "Did she just—" Someone stood up. Lila tried to step forward, mouth open, but Miss Carter blocked her path. Not aggressively, just firmly, one hand palm open. Not yet. I didn't wait for permission to finish. I closed the speaker, picked up the file. "That's all," I said simply, and then I turned. I didn't rush, I didn't stumble. I just wheeled myself off the stage because I wasn't trying to win the room. I was trying to remind it what the truth sounds like when you stop begging for it to be believed. At the edge of the hallway, just outside the gym doors, Taylor caught up with me. Their breath came fast, their eyes wide. "You did it?" they whispered. "Not yet," I replied, but the silence cracked. That's a start. We didn't say anything else. The noise in the gym behind us grew. No longer structured applause, but fragmented voices, confused, alert, some angry, some soft with doubt. As we passed the front office, I could still hear Principal Dawson's voice. "Lila," he said, low but stern. "We need to talk now." And he hadn't muted the microphone yet. The whole gym heard it. The hallway outside the principal's office was too quiet. The kind of quiet that wraps itself around your spine and waits. I sat there, my folder balanced on my lap, headphones in but no music playing. Just white noise. Enough to muffle the rustle of staff walking past. Enough to keep me from hearing Lila's voice through the walls. I wasn't sure if I wanted to. They'd called me down right after the assembly. I knew it wouldn't be over with just one audio clip, and I knew Lila better than anyone. If you cut off her spotlight, she'd just change costumes. Inside the office, muffled voices grew sharper. I could make out a few fragments now. Her voice, calm and poised. I don't know what kind of editing software he used, but that audio wasn't real. There, it was. "He's obsessed. I've tried to be patient, but he's made it impossible. Look at this." Papers rustled. "This email, he sent this to someone in November. Said he'd make me pay one day. Twist S16, a forged email. I could picture it without needing to see it, likely littered with enough vague threats to raise suspicion, but not enough to prove anything concrete. Clever. Cold. Principal Dawson's voice came next. We take this seriously, Lila, very seriously. But it's fake. Anyone can generate audio these days with a few clicks, you know that. She sounded almost indignant, almost desperate. And he hates me. He's always hated me. That's not a crime. Her voice cracked slightly, a rare slip that revealed a fear beneath her polished exterior. There was a pause, then footsteps. The door opened. "Elliot," he said, "please come in." I wheeled into the room slowly, spine straight. Lila sat across from him, legs crossed neatly, hands folded like she was in Sunday school. Her expression was carefully composed, but the tension in her jaw betrayed her. "I understand you have more material to submit," Principal Dawson said. I nodded once. "Yes?" I slid the folder across the desk and tapped the top. Time-stamped raw audio, security footage from the day before the fall. I never accessed any tech rooms or equipment. It was all captured from hallway mics. He looked through the documents, lips pressed tight. "And," I added, "I didn't send that email." She didn't flinch, but her nostrils flared just slightly. Dawson studied the printed footage, then set it aside. Still, the question remains. Who corroborates your story? Twist S-17 walked through the door right on cue. "Taylor." They didn't knock, just entered, clutching their phone like it held the weight of something holy. "I do," they said. Lila turned pale. Taylor walked to the desk and held up their phone. "This is from rehearsal day. I was filming on my own, just goofing off. I caught it." They pulled up the video. Lila walking behind me, a slight nudge, the sudden lurch, and the look, her smirk right after I hit the floor. "You told me to delete it," Taylor said, eyes on her. "I didn't." Lila opened her mouth, closed it again. She looked at Dawson, then at me, then down at her lap. Silence. And not the kind I'd grown used to. The suffocating, helpless kind. This was silence with teeth. The kind that bites back. Dawson took a breath, heavy. "Lila, you're suspended until we can complete a full review." "I'll be contacting district-level services." She finally reacted. "You're suspending me?" she snapped. "For what? A nudge?" "That's it." He looked tired. "For lying, for intimidation, for obstruction, for violating student trust." Our mother had arrived at some point during the exchange. I hadn't heard her walk in, but there she was, standing in the doorway. She looked at Lila, then at me, and for the first time I could remember, she didn't say a word to defend her. She just stood there, silent, hollow, no sides taken, no damage control, just the raw weight of realizing she didn't know either of us as well as she thought. Her silence was louder than any apology, a confession that she'd failed to see me all along. I didn't linger. I didn't want to gloat or win. I just turned and wheeled out of the office. The hallway was busier now, but I moved through it quietly. Nobody stopped me. A few students looked up, their expressions a mix of curiosity and recognition. I passed the main trophy case, my reflection caught in the glass beside Lila's photo. No medal around my neck, no plaque, no flowers, but I was whole. And this time, I hadn't needed anyone's permission to be back. At my locker, I reached for the dial but paused. There, taped to the front, was a napkin, folded perfectly, shaped like a leaf, no name, no note, but I didn't need one. I smiled, not because the pain was gone, but because someone had seen, and that alone in that moment was everything. The moment they asked, I didn't hesitate. There was no tremble in my answer, no shrinking like before. I said yes, because the silence I used to hide behind no longer belonged to me. That morning, I arrived at school earlier than usual. The auditorium buzzed with the kind of energy that only comes with anticipation. Not the nervous kind, not anymore. This wasn't about approval or applause. This was about breath. Mine, spoken aloud, no longer borrowed or stolen. Backstage, students were checking mics, taping wires to the floor, running lines. I wasn't there, as someone folding napkins or handing out programs. I was a featured speaker for once. No one tried to steer me out of the way. No one offered to help without asking. I took my spot, my rightful place. The stage crew guided me to the center podium, and I noticed it immediately. A single folded napkin resting on top. Not just any fold, a leaf like the ones I'd folded for Lila months ago, back when I still tried to earn kindness. Back when I believed if I just stayed soft enough, they wouldn't cut me. But this one wasn't tossed. It wasn't crumpled or left behind. It stood perfect, intentional. I turned slightly to the side. Taylor stood off stage, arms crossed, nodding once. Twist S18, no words, just a quiet echo with new meaning. The curtain pulled back. I waited for the rustle to fade, for the crowd to settle before adjusting the mic. And then I spoke. My name is Elliot. You've seen me. Some of you remember what happened. Some of you don't. I glanced around. The room was packed. Every row filled. Students, teachers, parents, some sitting with arms crossed, others already leaning in. But most of you remember the silence. I took a breath, not to steady myself, but to savor it. They said I fell because I was weak, but I didn't fall. I was pushed. I was erased. I was cropped out. I was doubted, and when I spoke, I was told to whisper or stay quiet altogether. My voice grew steadier with each word, fueled by years of suppressed rage finally breaking free. I looked toward the front row where Principal Dawson sat next to my mother. She didn't look away. She didn't nod either. She just listened. But strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it rolls. Sometimes it breaks before it bends. And sometimes it folds napkins no one will use. Sometimes it shows up anyway. My voice didn't rise, I didn't shout. You pushed me, but I didn't fall. I rose. On wheels, on silence, on fire. And then I stopped for a moment. There was nothing. And then, everything. Applause rose, not polite, not forced, not even delayed. It roared. Feet stomped. Hands clapped. Someone even whistled. But I didn't smile because I wasn't here for their clapping. I was here for the silence that finally listened. After the event, the hallway felt different, lighter somehow. Students passed me with nods, soft words. One girl, someone I didn't know, touched my shoulder gently. I needed that, she said, voice cracking. I've been quiet too long. A few teachers approached. The way they looked at me wasn't rehearsed or patronizing. They saw me, not the chair, me. Lila didn't show up, not during, not after. I didn't ask where she was. That wasn't mine to carry anymore. On my way out, I passed the mural by the library. Student voices. They'd added new names since the start of the year, and there it was, Elliot. Spelled right, centered, proper. No photo, no spotlight, just a name. And this time that was enough, because I didn't need to be celebrated, I just needed to be counted. And I was. They called it a fall, but this was how I rose.